Alex had always dreamed of exploring the stars. As a young boy, he spent countless nights staring at the night sky, wondering what lay beyond the tiny blue dot he called home. Now, years later, he was finally living that dream. He was part of a human exploration mission sent to a distant planet in a galaxy far from Earth. The planet was unlike anything humans had ever seen before. It shimmered under 3 suns, its surface covered in crystal-like structures that reflected light in every color imaginable. Strange, tall towers rose into the sky, and bridges made of a glowing, almost liquid material connected different parts of the city. The moment Alex stepped off the shuttle, he felt both excitement and nervousness. The air was different here, thicker, tinged with a subtle sweetness that made breathing feel unusual but pleasant. Alien creatures moved gracefully across the streets. Some had wings, some had multiple limbs, and some glowed from head to toe. Despite their differences, they carried themselves with elegance and intelligence that fascinated Alex. This was not a hostile world. It was alive, vibrant, and full of beauty. Alex's mission was diplomatic. Humans had discovered traces of intelligent life on this planet before, but no one had made direct contact. Today was the day that humans would finally meet the alien leaders, and Alex, though trained for diplomacy, could not hide the thrill running through his veins. He walked through the grand halls of the palace, its walls sparkling, as if embedded, with tiny stars. The ceiling was high and curved, reflecting light in strange patterns. Every step echoed, yet it felt comforting, like the palace itself was welcoming him. As Alex entered the main courtyard, he saw the gathering of alien leaders and nobles. At the center stood the most remarkable figure of all, Princess Lyra. She was immediately recognizable even from a distance, for her presence was commanding. Her skin shimmered with a soft golden hue, and her eyes were large, deep, and filled with an intelligence that seemed to see everything at once. Her hair moved slightly as if caught in a gentle wind, though no breeze touched the courtyard. She wore a ceremonial robe adorned with glowing symbols that indicated her royal status. But what struck Alex the most was her calm and confident aura. She radiated authority, strength, and a sense of purpose that made Alex feel both small and intrigued. At the same time, he had read about her reputation before arriving. She was known as the finest warrior in her kingdom, a strategist who could defeat multiple opponents without raising a weapon. Stories of her bravery and wisdom spread across star systems, and humans had only begun to hear whispers of her skill. And now here she was, standing only a few meters away, gazing at the newcomers with curiosity. Something in Alex's mind reacted almost instinctively. Without thinking, he stepped forward. Perhaps it was his adrenaline, or the desire to make a strong impression on the aliens, but he spoke in a tone that he hoped sounded confident. "Princess Lyra, I challenge you to a duel." A hush fell over the crowd. Conversation stopped mid-word, and even the glowing birds perched on crystal trees seemed to pause. Alex immediately realized that he had probably made a mistake. The humans around him gave subtle looks of warning. Challenging royalty was not just unusual, it could be seen as extremely disrespectful, but the words were already out of his mouth. "Princess E." Lyra blinked once slowly, then she smiled. It was not a mocking smile nor an angry one. It was a smile that held amusement and curiosity, as if she were watching a strange, fascinating puzzle unfold in front of her. "A human challenges me," she said softly, her voice like music, carrying authority without harshness. "Interesting. Very well. We shall see what courage looks like in your kind." The crowd exhaled collectively, some gasping, some whispering to each other. The air vibrated with anticipation. Alex felt his heart race. He had expected anger, maybe even a refusal, but not this. Lyra's acceptance of the challenge, however subtle, changed everything. This was no longer a simple ceremonial greeting. It had become a test of bravery, skill, and perhaps something deeper that Alex could not yet understand. As he was guided to the preparation area, Alex tried to calm his thoughts. His mind raced through everything he knew about combat, diplomacy, and strategy. Humans were not naturally stronger than aliens in this world, but humans had adaptability, creativity, and unpredictability on their side. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it would be enough to earn respect. Meanwhile, Lyra moved with quiet elegance, observing Alex without overtly showing it. She had fought many warriors in her time, but there was something different about him. His confidence was raw, almost naive, but there was no malice, no arrogance that sought to belittle her. That caught her attention. Many challengers came to test her strength for pride or politics. This human's challenge felt honest in a way that was rare, even among the bravest of her own kind. The courtyard where the duel would take place was prepared with care. Alien technology reshaped the ground, creating a dynamic arena that would test both agility and intelligence. Crystalline walls shifted slowly, forming new paths and obstacles. The air hummed faintly with energy. Observers from multiple species gathered around, their eyes bright with expectation. Stories of human courage had reached these stars, but none had seen it firsthand. This duel would be remembered. Alex stood in the center of the arena, looking at the shimmering walls, the moving platforms, and then finally at Lyra. His palms were slightly sweaty, his muscles tense, but his mind was sharp. He reminded himself why he had done this. He wanted to show that humans were more than fragile beings from a small blue planet. He wanted to show that courage, intelligence, and honor were qualities worth respecting, no matter the species. Lyra stepped forward, her movements precise and fluid. She radiated confidence without arrogance, strength without aggression. "Prepare yourself," she said gently, almost teasingly. "I do not fight without reason, but I do recognize bravery." Alex swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of fear, excitement, and awe. The moment he had dreamed of for so long was here, yet it was nothing like he imagined. This was not just a test of strength, it was a meeting of worlds, of cultures, and of values. Whatever happened next, he knew he would remember this moment for the rest of his life. And so, the first chapter of an extraordinary encounter began. A human, daring and impulsive, and an alien princess, calm and powerful, standing across from each other in a courtyard that shimmered under alien suns. Both prepared for a duel, yet neither truly knew how differently it would unfold. The story was about to begin, and the universe held its breath. The air in the courtyard seemed to crackle with tension as Alex took his first careful steps onto the duel ground. The alien technology beneath his feet shifted constantly, forming paths and walls that moved slowly, almost like the arena was alive. Every surface shimmered, reflecting the light of the three suns above. It was beautiful, but it made him nervous. One wrong step could send him sliding into a barrier or cause him to stumble. He had trained for many challenges, but nothing had prepared him for a duel in a place like this. Lyra approached with grace, her movements flowing as if she were dancing, though every step was calculated. She carried no weapon, but Alex could sense the energy around her. He could see why stories called her the finest warrior of her kingdom. Every glance she gave him, every subtle motion, showed skill, confidence, and control. Her presence alone was intimidating, but it was not cruel or threatening. It was as though she were inviting him to prove himself, while also testing how he would respond under pressure. The crowd around the arena was silent, watching closely. Alien nobles and humans alike leaned forward, curious to see how the duel would begin. Some whispered to each other, sharing theories about human courage. Others had never seen a human up close, and now one was about to face the most skilled fighter of the planet. Alex felt their eyes on him, and the weight of their attention made his heart beat faster. He realized that this duel was more than a challenge. It was a test of character, of bravery, and perhaps even of understanding between species. He tried to steady himself. Humans were not naturally the strongest beings here, especially compared to the aliens' physical advantages. But humans had something else: adaptability, creativity, unpredictability. He focused on that thought, reminding himself that strength alone did not always win a fight. Courage, intelligence, and quick thinking could turn the tide. He took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat slow just a little, and raised his stance in preparation. Lyra stopped a few steps away, her posture relaxed yet alert. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity. Then, without a word, she moved. Her first motion was slow, almost playful, as if she were testing him rather than attacking. Alex reacted quickly, moving sideways to avoid the shift, in the floor beneath her. He realized that this duel would not follow the patterns he knew. It was not just about punching or blocking. It was about thinking, reacting, and learning in the moment. Every step, every glance, every motion mattered. The ground shifted again, forming a new platform that rose slightly beneath Alex's feet. He jumped, barely keeping his balance, and landed in a crouch. Lyra's eyes followed him, calm and steady. She moved in a way that was mesmerizing, almost like watching a river flow. She struck lightly at the moving walls with a precision that made the platform wobble slightly, testing his reflexes. Alex had to leap, twist, and dodge to avoid being caught off guard. He realized quickly that this duel was as much about intelligence and observation as it was about strength or combat skills. He decided to take a risk. Using a move he had learned in training, Alex feigned a lunge, then rolled to the side as a wall shifted toward him. Lyra's eyes flicked to him and he felt a faint smile cross her face. She moved faster now, testing him in new ways. The crowd murmured in excitement. No human had ever faced her before, and here he was, keeping up, at least enough to earn recognition. Alex felt a small spark of pride. He was not winning, but he was surviving. And sometimes surviving in a situation like this was the first step toward proving one's courage. As the duel continued, Alex noticed something strange. Lyra did not strike with the intent to harm him. Her movements were precise, but not aggressive, in a cruel way. It was almost as if she were teaching him something through the duel, showing him that skill and control were just as important as raw power. Alex began to understand that this was not a typical fight. It was a test, yes, but it was also a lesson. Every shift in the platform, every dodge, and every carefully timed movement carried meaning. He tried to match her focus. Every step, he watched the walls, the ground, and Lyra's movements. He felt his mind sharpen, his instincts heighten. He was not just reacting. He was anticipating. He began to see patterns in the shifting arena, small hints that told him where the next challenge would appear. It was exhausting but also exhilarating. Alex felt alive in a way he had never felt before. The adrenaline, the tension, and the thrill of facing such an extraordinary being made him forget fear, replacing it with determination. Lyra seemed to recognize his growing focus. She increased the pace slightly, moving faster and testing his reflexes more sharply. Alex stumbled once but caught himself just in time. He could feel the sweat on his forehead, the strain in his muscles. Yet he refused to give up. Each moment was a chance to prove something: courage, intelligence, and perhaps something more. He realized that this duel was not just about impressing her. It was about showing that humans could face challenges with resilience no matter how impossible they seemed. Then came a moment that caught him completely off guard. Lyra stepped closer, stopping just short of where Alex stood. The movement was deliberate but not threatening. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. Alex could feel his pulse racing, and for the first time, he felt a strange connection, as if the duel had shifted from a test of skill to a meeting of minds. He did not know what to do next. Every instinct told him to prepare for an attack, yet there was no attack coming. She simply stood there, calm and curious. Alex realized something important in that instant. This duel was never meant to be violent. Lyra was showing him that courage was not just about fighting. It was about facing the unknown, acting with honesty, and daring to be oneself even in front of someone far more powerful. He understood that survival in this arena was not enough. He had to engage, observe, and respond with integrity. That thought steadied him. He felt his breathing even out, and his focus sharpened like never before. The crowd watched in awe. No human had ever faced the princess in such a way. Alex could feel the eyes of aliens and humans alike on him, but for the first time, he did not feel fear. He felt a strange exhilaration, a sense of belonging and a challenge that transcended species, language, or culture. He was learning not just how to react to the arena, but how to understand the intentions behind Lyra's movements. The duel had become a dance of observation, intelligence, and courage. As the sun reflected off the crystal structures around the arena, Alex realized that he was beginning to enjoy the challenge. Each movement, each reaction, each decision made him sharper, more aware, and more connected to this alien world. He knew the duel was far from over, but he also knew that this was exactly why he had come here, to experience, to learn, and to face the impossible with bravery. And in that moment, standing across from Princess Lyra, Alex felt a strange certainty. No matter what happened next, this encounter would change him forever. It was not just a duel, it was the beginning of something extraordinary, a meeting of courage, curiosity, and connection that neither of them would forget. The duel had been going on for some time, and Alex was beginning to understand the rhythm of the arena. Every shift of the crystalline platforms, every sudden rise of walls, and every subtle movement by Lyra tested not just his physical skills, but also his mind. He had learned to anticipate, to react quickly, and to stay calm even when everything around him seemed to move unpredictably. Yet no matter how much he adapted, Lyra always seemed one step ahead. Her movements were precise, graceful, and calculated in a way that made her appear untouchable. Alex felt a mixture of frustration and admiration. He had never faced an opponent like this. On Earth, he had trained against humans and robots, against predictable patterns and controlled environments. But Lyra was different. She was alive, aware, and infinitely clever. Every gesture, every feint, every glance carried meaning. It was as if she was communicating without words, testing him not only physically but mentally, emotionally, and even morally. Alex realized that winning a duel in the traditional sense might not even be the point. Sweat ran down his forehead, and his muscles ached, but his mind was sharp. He noticed the way Lyra's eyes flicked to the shifting walls before they moved. He began to anticipate the changes even faster, adjusting his movements with split-second precision. His heart raced, but he felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. This duel had become more than a test. It was a challenge that demanded everything he had, forcing him to discover strengths he did not know existed. Then, something unexpected happened. Lyra suddenly stopped her fluid movements. She stood perfectly still, her weaponless hands relaxed by her sides, and her eyes locked on his. The crowd fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the alien technology seemed to pause, as if the universe itself had taken a breath. Alex froze, unsure of what was about to happen. He had prepared for strikes, dodges, and attacks, but he had not prepared for this. Lyra stepped closer, her golden-hued skin glowing softly in the sunlight. There was no aggression in her movement, only calmness and curiosity. Alex could feel the energy in the air shift. He sensed that this moment was different from everything that had come before. His instincts told him to defend himself, to anticipate a strike, but the look in her eyes told him there was no strike coming. Instead, there was something else, something he could not quite name. And then it happened. Lyra leaned forward and pressed her lips lightly against his cheek in a gesture that was gentle, respectful, and completely unexpected. Alex's eyes widened in shock. His mind raced to understand what had just occurred. A duel was meant to test strength and skill, to show who could dominate. Yet here was Lyra, the most powerful warrior he had ever faced, answering his challenge not with violence but with a simple, almost playful gesture. The crowd gasped, some audibly, some silently, but all eyes were on them. Aliens who had never seen a human up close now watched one in the most extraordinary encounter of their lives. Some whispered in awe, some tilted their heads in curiosity, and others simply stared, unsure how to interpret what they had witnessed. Alex felt heat rush to his face, a mix of embarrassment, confusion, and admiration. He had expected a fight, perhaps even humiliation, but this was something entirely different. Lyra pulled back slightly, her eyes still locked on his. Then, in a voice soft yet commanding, she said, "Courage comes in many forms. Strength is not always measured by force, but by honesty, bravery, and willingness to face the unknown. You have shown that today, human." Alex blinked, still trying to process her words. He had entered this duel thinking only of survival, thinking only of proving himself physically. But she had just taught him something far more important. That courage was more than muscle and skill. As he took a step back to regain composure, Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest. He realized that he had been so focused on the duel itself that he had missed the lesson Lyra was teaching. This was not about winning or losing. It was about understanding, respect, and connection. In a single, unexpected moment, Lyra had conveyed more than words could express. She had turned a duel into a bridge between their worlds, showing that even beings from completely different galaxies could communicate and respect one another through honesty and bravery. Alex took a deep breath and straightened his posture. He looked around at the arena, the shifting platforms, and the observing crowd, and he felt a new sense of purpose. He realized that this duel had already achieved something remarkable. He had faced one of the most powerful beings in the universe, and had done so without fear, without arrogance, and with an open heart. That, Lyra had shown him, was the true meaning of courage. For a few moments, the two of them simply stood there, studying each other. There was no tension, no threat, no expectation of violence. Just two beings from different worlds, recognizing each other's bravery and strength in a way that transcended species. Alex's mind replayed the kiss over and over, not as something romantic or personal, but as a symbol of respect, trust, and connection. It was a moment that would stay with him forever. Lyra finally stepped back and raised her hand, slightly, signaling the end of the test. "You have faced the unknown, human," she said. "You have done so with courage and sincerity. That is worth more than victory in any battle." Alex nodded, understanding her words more fully than he could have before. He had learned that true strength came not from defeating an opponent, but from being willing to face challenges honestly and with an open heart. The crowd erupted, not in shock at violence, but in admiration of what they had witnessed. "Aliens," whispered among themselves, discussing the humans' bravery and the princess's wisdom. Even the humans who had been watching with concern felt a surge of pride. Alex had done something extraordinary, not by overpowering the princess, but by showing courage in the face of the unknown, and by allowing a connection that no one had expected. As the applause and murmurs filled the courtyard, Alex felt a sense of calm he had never experienced during a duel. The fear, the anxiety, and the tension were replaced by a feeling of accomplishment and understanding. He had entered the arena to prove himself through combat, but he had learned a lesson far greater than victory. He had learned that courage, honesty, and openness could create bonds that brute force never could. Lyra approached once more, her expression calm and approving. "Remember this, human," she said. "The universe is full of challenges, but also full of opportunities to connect. Do not forget what you have learned here." Alex nodded, silently grateful for her words. He realized that this encounter was not just a duel, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. It was the start of a story that would change him, and perhaps even the relationship between humans and this alien world forever. As he stepped off the arena floor, Alex felt a newfound respect for the princess, for her people, and for the lessons he had learned. The duel had ended, but its impact would remain with him for the rest of his life. He had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and discovered a courage within himself that he never knew existed, and he knew, deep in his heart, that the universe was far more vast, mysterious, and wonderful than he had ever imagined. The duel had ended, but the atmosphere in the courtyard remained electric. Alex stood slightly apart, catching his breath, his body sore from constant movement and mental strain. The crowd, made up of humans and aliens alike, erupted into murmurs, and whispers of admiration. Aliens who had observed Lyra's countless duels knew the rarity of what they had just witnessed. A human, one of a species they considered fragile and untested, had stood in her arena, faced her challenges, and not only survived, but had shown courage and adaptability. Lyra turned to face the crowd, her glowing eyes calm and commanding. "This human," she said, her voice carrying easily across the courtyard, "has shown bravery, intelligence, and honesty. He has faced the unknown without arrogance, without fear of failure, and with respect for what is greater than himself. Let his actions serve as a reminder that courage is universal, not confined to any species." Her words resonated deeply. The aliens whispered among themselves, some nodding, others exchanging glances of surprise. Humans cheered, feeling pride and hope, realizing that even in this distant world, bravery could be recognized and respected. Alex felt a mixture of relief and awe. Relief because the duel had ended without injury, awe because he had received respect from someone as formidable as Princess Lyra. He knew he had been fortunate, but he also realized that luck alone had not carried him. It was his willingness to engage, to remain honest and courageous in the face of something utterly unknown, that had earned this acknowledgement. This realization filled him with a quiet pride. Lyra approached him, her movements smooth and deliberate. "Step forward," she said. Alex obeyed, his feet still aching, his heart still racing. "You have faced more than just me today," she continued. "You have faced a culture, a world, and a people that are very different from your own. That is not a simple feat. Many would have faltered. Many would have retreated in fear or arrogance, yet you did not. You acted with courage, and that is worthy of respect." Alex nodded, finding his voice at last. I did not know what to expect. I only wanted to show that humans can be brave, that we can face challenges with honesty and respect." Lyra's eyes softened slightly and she gave a faint, approving nod. "Then you have succeeded. More than you realize, human. This is a beginning, not an end. Courage, when recognized, leads to trust, understanding, and sometimes even friendship." The crowd continued to watch, sensing the gravity of the moment. Alex could feel their curiosity, their admiration, and even a quiet sense of hope. Humans and aliens had met before in history, but rarely had there been such a direct, meaningful exchange. This duel had become something far greater than a test of skill. It had become a symbol of connection between worlds. Advisors and nobles began to approach, asking Alex questions and praising his performance. Some were genuinely curious about human abilities and ways of thinking. Others were interested in how his courage might influence future relations between species. Alex answered as best he could, trying to remain humble while acknowledging the thrill and challenge of the experience. Every answer he gave seemed to impress the crowd further. His openness, honesty, and willingness to communicate across cultures earned him not just respect but admiration. Lyra stayed close, observing him with quiet satisfaction. She had seen many challengers in her life, but few had combined courage with sincerity and intelligence as Alex had. She realized that this human could become more than a visitor or observer. He could be a bridge between worlds. Perhaps in time he could help humans and her people learn from one another, forming alliances built on trust rather than fear. As the crowd began to disperse, the princess spoke again, directing a few of her aides. "Ensure he has every comfort and guidance. He has proven himself worthy of attention and care." Alex felt a sense of humility and gratitude. He had come seeking adventure and discovery, and now he found himself treated with respect and curiosity, not just for being human, but for who he was in that moment. Later, as Alex walked through the palace halls, he reflected on the duel. He realized that the lesson he had learned would remain with him forever. Courage was not always about defeating an opponent or proving one's strength. Sometimes it was about honesty, openness, and the willingness to face challenges without pretense. That lesson, he understood, was far more valuable than any victory he could have achieved through force. And as he glanced at Lyra, who moved gracefully through the palace with her attendants, Alex understood that a unique bond had begun. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it carried the potential to grow into trust, understanding, and collaboration. He had entered the arena to test himself, but he had gained something far greater: respect, insight, and the beginning of a connection that could shape the future of both their peoples. In the weeks following the duel, life on the planet changed subtly for Alex. He was no longer just an observer or guest. He had become a recognized figure among the alien population. Scholars, diplomats, and even young warriors approached him to learn more about humans, their ways of thinking, and their courage. What had started as a simple mission to explore had evolved into a cultural exchange that neither species could have anticipated. Lyra continued to watch him with quiet interest. She had seen many humans before, but few had displayed the kind of integrity and bravery that Alex had shown. More importantly, he had not sought to dominate or impress her with arrogance. His courage had been authentic, and that authenticity had earned her trust. Slowly, a bond developed between them, one built on mutual respect and curiosity. They spent hours discussing ideas, strategies, and philosophies from their respective worlds, learning from one another while deepening the connection that had begun in the arena. Alex also found that his own perspective had shifted. The duel had been a lesson, yes, but living among Lyra's people showed him the beauty of their culture, their intelligence, and their values. He admired their sense of community, their careful approach to diplomacy, and their willingness to embrace new ideas. And yet he realized that humans too had qualities worth sharing: adaptability, creativity, and the courage to face uncertainty. The more he learned about them, the more he understood how bridges between worlds could benefit everyone. One day, Lyra invited him to observe a training exercise with her personal guard. Alex watched as warriors moved with precision, their skills honed over years of practice. But what impressed him most was not the combat itself, but the emphasis on discipline, respect, and strategy. Lyra turned to him and said, "Strength without wisdom is dangerous. Courage without understanding is reckless. You have shown both courage and understanding, human. That is why you are here with me." Alex felt a sense of pride, but also humility. He knew he had much to learn, yet he realized that his presence and actions could inspire trust and collaboration. He began to work alongside the aliens, sharing insights about humans, learning their technology, and even helping to solve problems with fresh perspectives. Each day brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities to grow. The story of the duel and the unexpected kiss spread throughout the planet. It became a tale of bravery, respect, and connection, a reminder that true courage was not about defeating others but about engaging with honesty and an open heart. Aliens and humans alike shared the story, and it inspired many to consider how different species could learn from one another. In quiet moments, Alex reflected on the journey. He had come to a distant planet seeking adventure and knowledge, and he had found more than he could have imagined. He had faced a being more powerful than himself and had earned respect not through force but through courage and sincerity. He had learned that understanding and empathy were as important as strength, and that connections formed in unexpected ways could change the course of history. Lyra, too, valued the lessons learned. She had seen the potential in a human that few would have recognized. Through Alex, she understood that courage and integrity were universal qualities, not confined to her own species. Their bond grew, not romantic in the traditional sense, but rooted in mutual respect, trust, and the knowledge that they had faced something extraordinary together. As humans and aliens began to work together more closely, Alex's actions set a precedent. He had shown that even one individual, when brave, honest, and open, could influence relations between worlds. The duel had been the starting point, but the real journey had just begun. Looking out over the crystalline city from a high balcony, Alex felt a sense of hope. He knew that challenges would come both for him and for the alliance between humans and Lyra's people, but he also knew that courage, understanding, and connection would guide them through anything. He had entered this world seeking discovery, and he had found respect, trust, and the promise of a future that bridged galaxies. And as the suns of the alien planet shone brightly overhead, Alex understood that he had truly become part of something greater than himself, a story of bravery, friendship, and unity that would be remembered across the stars.